Hey guys! So I got a bit of a different story for you today. This one didn't happen in high school, this one happened right after high school. There was a point where I started getting really sick and I wasn't sure what was going on. So it was a few months after I just graduated and I started feeling really weak and tired. I also started losing a lot of weight, which was kind of weird. I mean, I always had a fast metabolism and I always had a very wiry structure, but this was very different. I had gone to the doctor about 8 different times trying to figure out what was going on with me, and they kept saying mono or swine flu, which was out at that time, and I was just like, I don't know, this doesn't feel like a flu. They never really prescribed me any pills. Basically what they said was drink thicker milk and take in a lot more calories and you'll probably be fine. Now, maybe that would have worked and I would have been fine, but the problem was at the same time, I had started losing my appetite. Eating even just a little bit of food made me feel sick. Now, a little after that, I started getting this really bad chest pain, and I was still not sure what was going on. Now, I'm no wuss, okay? I can handle a little bit of pain, but this was not like any other heartburn I'd ever felt in my life. And what was stranger was every so often, it would be like someone grabbed a knife and had it in my chest and then just turned it a little bit. There was this sharp pain every so often, and as the days went on, this pain would get worse, and not just the sharp bits either. I would wake up and my chest would automatically feel worse than the day before. I actually thought for a minute that I had a cracked rib or something. I even went to a chiropractor because I was like, hey, I think I have a rib out. It's like really bothering me. And he examined me and he was like, no, you don't have any ribs out, but I can work on your back. And I was like, all right, yeah, maybe it'll help. And it didn't. I just didn't know what the hell was going on. So I went back to the doctor. So I tell the doctor my new symptoms and he says, oh, okay, so that sounds like what you have is esophagitis. It sounds like you got a bunch of stomach acid going up into your esophagus and that's where that sharp pain is coming from. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. He said, yeah, so you're probably not eating because when you eat, it hurts your esophagus and makes you not want to eat any food. And that made less sense to me because I was like, wait a minute, I lost my appetite before this chest pain. But whatever, you're the doctor. You probably know better what's going on than I do. And at least at this point, I have a diagnosis. So he gave me some acid reflux pills, and I tried those for a little while. Now, as hopeful as I was that this was going to fix the problem, it actually got worse every single day. Those sharp pains that I would have where someone had twisted the knife, they got worse, and not only worse, but they lasted for a longer amount of time. And I was still like, man, nothing seems to be working here. I had lost a lot of weight too. Generally, I sat about 170 pounds and I was down to 120 at this point. Eventually, I found a doctor who was legitimately curious about my situation and not just trying to rush me out of the room. And he stopped there for a minute and he said, okay, this is going to be a long shot, but I'm going to test for something called H Pylori. He goes, it's generally something that old people are affected by, so I highly doubt that you have it, but I want to just rule it out just in case. So I gave him some blood, and 3 days later, I came back positive. Now, H. Pylori is a gift basket from hell. It's like if you accidentally downloaded a virus onto your computer and now you have spyware, ransomware, malware, and you're trying to get rid of each one of these things without realizing that there is a source to all of this shit. If left untreated, H. pylori destroys your immune system, starts eating your muscle and fat away, and then it starts to represent itself as esophagitis. Once it works its way into your stomach, it can give you stomach ulcers, and if those are left untreated, those can turn cancerous, and you can die in upwards of 7 years. Yeah. Now, normally young people don't tend to get H. pylori because their immune systems are strong enough to fight it off, and even though I had a good immune system, for whatever reason, mine didn't fight it off, it just allowed it in. The doctor told me that generally people get H. pylori from river water. That's typically how it's contracted. And apparently 50% of Americans have H. pylori, but because their body's so good at defending it, they just don't have any symptoms of it. Now, luckily, there is a treatment for H. pylori. Unluckily, it's worse than the disease itself. I was taking these pills for 2 weeks, and what they do is they kill all the bacteria in your stomach, good and bad. So you're left with no immune system, and you're just sick as hell for 2 weeks. It was terrible. I actually told my mother, I was like, if I get H. pylori again, let it kill me. I don't want to take these. This sucked. So after the 2 weeks of taking these pills, I felt a lot better. I was coming back to me, but I realized that I wasn't putting on weight. Again, I was generally around 170 to 180 pounds, and now I was at 149, 150. That's kind of where I was stuck. So I went back to the doctor to make absolutely sure that it had gotten out of my system. And this is what the doctor told me. He said that in a way my metabolism had been sped up and it was already fast. H. pylori is a muscle eater, so if my body starts getting hungry, it just instantly goes into eat me away mode, so I'm not allowed to let myself get hungry or else that's going to start happening. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I was looking up before this video facts on H. pylori, and it seems a lot of people do have this metabolism problem, where after they get rid of the disease, they're still skinny as a rail and they can't seem to put weight on. So I asked the doctor, I was like, is that going to speed up? And he goes, well, it's going to speed up in your life anyway. You may end up getting to a point where you can be fat, maybe around 30, 40, generally when metabolisms slow down. Or it just won't happen, like you're just going to have that lingering thing. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's kind of a silver lining on that. That's kind of nice, but yeah, okay. Like I said, I used to be 170 pounds and now I can't get past 150. And I eat a lot, which is kind of funny because Barry Allen, that's my name, genuinely is Barry Allen. And if you know, the Flash's name is Barry Allen, and he also has a really fast metabolism. So I guess we'll see how that pans out. We end up meeting in the multiverse and I'm like, hey, so how'd you get your powers? And he's like, oh yeah, I was struck by lightning while I was holding a bunch of chemicals. How about you? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got a disease from river water. No big.